Hi, I'm Carter with Craft Customs, and today we're going to do a video on how to disassemble and start the process for recovering, reupholstering a Porsche 911 steering wheel. And so we're going to start with disassembly right now, and then we'll go into the rest of the process. So the first thing that we've got to do on removing the trim off of this steering wheel, which is something a lot of people battle with, and not too many people show that because it is quite a challenging little task to take just the trim off. But we'll start with removing the airbag spring or dislodging it. We just take a little screwdriver, pop it in there, and pull that spring out of the plate, out of where it was attached. And then that allows us to, I'm going to do this from behind so you can see what I'm doing, to come in and slide the airbag lock wire out of its holding jig, if you will. Then we're going to go ahead and start removing the trim. So the first thing I do is heat up the actual steering wheel behind the trim. And I'm using a heat gun. You can get these at Home Depot or wherever. Be careful to keep it moving because you don't want to overheat the rubber, the molded rubber of the steering wheel, because you could damage it. So we keep it moving the whole time. And I'm going to do this one spoke at a time. Then I go in with a flat, little bit dull screwdriver, and it's smooth. And I slide all the way down as low as I can get that screwdriver in behind it. And then you just pry, and it's hot, so you pry just a little bit and then move to the other side and pry. And pry. And it'll start moving little by little, but you just got to encourage it. I want to say this about the way Porsche designed these trim pieces on most of the later model 911s. In my opinion, it's not a very good design, because what they did was glued the trim piece into the rubber of the steering wheel. So that's the key you kind of want to know. You're having to encourage the glue to let loose without damaging the steering wheel, and we use heat and pressure to do that. So we'll continue doing what we were doing, and I just go from side to side until it starts coming up. And there's 4 little trim pieces, that little tabs, 2 here and 2 here on each one of these spokes. There's 4 tabs that are glued in there. And I'll show you when you can actually start seeing the glue. But I want to stay as far back as I can each pull that I make. I want to keep working my way down. You don't want to be prying only right here on the chrome, because you could damage the chrome. You want to go all the way down with your screwdriver behind the tab areas. And so a little bit of prying on one side and then go to the next side, a little bit of prying. So now you saw that one slip. Look at the white down in there. That's actually the glue on the end of the tab that's holding the tab glued in. Here's maybe even a better shot right there. That's the glue that Porsche used to put these together. So I'm going to show you one more spoke. Same thing, just heat it up, and then don't do it all in one pry. You're not going to get that. That's not going to work. You want to go down as far as you can with your screwdriver. And as your screwdriver allows you to, go from side to side, and as your screwdriver allows you to, you want to go in further with it, okay? And it's taking force. You're going to hear weird sounds like that because my screwdriver popped off of the tab is what just happened. As you see, I'm having to exert a lot of force on this. So what I'm going to do, now that I've kind of got the gap opened up, I'm going to shoot a little heat up inside of the gap and also on the back and on this inside of the curve, because I got a tab here and a tab here. So I want to heat both of those two locations up like that. And again, very few people demonstrate this because it's kind of a scary thing to do if you had never done it before. And it's a little scary if you have done it. And there you go. You saw it just pop loose. So it just took repeated going back and forth. And so I'm gonna go ahead and remove this last, loosen this last spoke, and then I'll show you how to take the trim off the rest of the way. Okay, so now we have the trim piece loose, and so we're going to go ahead and just pull it straight off. We've got one plug right here, so we just activate that plug with a finger on each side and pull that off. Just push in the tab, and it comes right off. We can set the trim aside. Now the rest of it's pretty straightforward and simple. We have two nuts on each of the paddle shifters to remove the paddle shifters. Okay, so now we've got our socket wrench, and we're going to go ahead and loosen up the nuts that we just pointed out. Now this little metal plate that's on the inside under the nuts is also hooked in to the actual paddle shifter. So that plate has to be pulled out first before the paddle shifter will release. Gotta love thread locker. Okay, what I've done is I've loosened the nuts, but on these particular nuts, this screw loosens with it. It's not allowing us to take the nut completely off, and the screw is also connected from the back side into that plate. So interesting Porsche schism there. So we're going to go ahead and use our needle nose and grab that plate and twist that plate. What we've got to do is get it out from underneath the paddle shifter right there. So that's the spot that I'm working to get loose. Let me get the bottom screw a little bit looser. There we go. There we go. And then that allows the paddle shifter to come on out. Feed your wire through, and that's the paddle shifter. So we'll do the same thing with the other one, and then I take a little piece of tape and put it on each paddle shifter to show that this is the left, that one's the right. Okay, so that covers the disassembly of the steering wheel. At the end of the project, when you're reassembling it, I'll just say very simply, you're doing exactly opposite of what you just did. However, the trim piece is so easy to put back on. You just slide it on and snap it back in place. I do not ever re-add glue to these tabs to re-glue it back in, because it's just kind of ridiculous how they did that in the first place. So you just, after you've got your paddle shifters back on, you just slide your trim back in place and push it into the tabs into the holes. And that's it. Okay, so next we've got all of our parts here. I've already slid the airbag into a bag. We're going to put the paddle shifters into a baggie, and I've marked each paddle shifter to know right where they go, so it's easy to get everything back quickly when we're finished. And then we keep all of the parts for every job in its own job box, so there's no chance of it getting mixed up with any of the other jobs in process.